what is your philosophy? What is it that drives you? This is, in this season, hopefully you have experienced an awakening of that thing that's deep inside of you and why I became a chiropractor in the first place.
Hello and welcome to the Remarkable CEO Podcast, a show dedicated to chiropractors who want to transform their job into a business so that they can have a remarkable practice as part of a remarkable life, not instead of one. With your hosts, Dr. Pete Camiolo and Dr. Stephen Franson.
Welcome back to another episode of the Remarkable CEO Podcast. I'm Dr. Pete Camiolo.
And I'm Dr. Stephen Franson.
Welcome to a series on capacity. And I'll tell you, the one thing that I hope that happens during these next weeks is that you will get out of the crazy space and you'll get into this place of alignment, of congruency, of traction in your business and life. We're hitting the crazy 8 reasons why, again, your practice is not going to grow. It's not going to go to the next level. They're the crazy 8 capacity blocks. We covered the overview in our previous series. If you're just tuning in today, go back and listen to our overview of this series. It's going to be really helpful because we're going to go through over the next 8 weeks, the 8 episodes. We're going to be going into what are the 8 capacity blocks. We're starting today with philosophy. But again, the previous episode, we went through those 8. So real quick, I'm going to drop what those are. They're the philosophical block. It's mental block, it's logistical block, physical plant block, personnel block, operational block, functional block, energetic block. And you may ask yourself, what does all that mean? Hey, go back and listen to the previous episode if you want to get the high level. But today you're gonna get the deeper level. We're gonna dig in today to the first one, and it's the most important one to start with because we're starting with your heart. You've heard us say, if you've been around us, that it's heart, head, hands, feet. It's heart, head, hands, feet. And I will tell you that this applies to everything. And let me just say this, then I'm going to throw it to you, Doc. So if I think about my huddle, if I think about my adjustment, if I think about my team meeting, if I think about my team training, if I think about my morning routine, if I think about anything, any relationship, any activity, heart, head, hands, feet. When it's that way, it's right. It's right. If you start with your heart, think about this, from the most small, minuscule task or relationship to the biggest thing you've ever had to accomplish in your life. If you start with your heart, head, hands, feet, in that order, and you get your heart right first, everything else has a much better chance of going right. Doesn't mean it's guaranteed, but it means you're starting right. So this is about the start. Talk about strong starts. Talk about how important that is. And today, again, I know we're going to get into some spaces here today because it's a heart issue. So we're going to go into the heart today on this episode, Dr. Stephen. And I know this is our goal here is for you to be able to take time to assess yourself as a CEO, your team, your practice, your life. We're really hoping that today and the rest of this week, your assignment really is to do an assessment of your philosophy and find out where is the block, because we all have block. But where is the capacity block for you philosophically right now in your life, in your business, and let's start making the necessary adjustments, Dr. Stephen.
This is really a tuning process, right? So I want to make sure that people hear us right when we say these are the crazy 8, these are the 8 capacity blocks that everybody experiences on some level. It's probably a better way to look at it. It's like, because each and every one of these is going to manifest in some way in your business, right? Because your business at this point is finite, right? There are limitations right now. So that's the lens I really want you to look at this or listen through a lens of, okay, where is my capacity block in the topic that we're discussing, right? So right now we're talking about philosophical capacity blocks. Like, so what is the limitation of your philosophy, right? So, because your business is simply a manifestation of your philosophy, right? So think of your business, the business you have right now, the practice you have right now, it's simply an expression of your philosophy. Think about your philosophy like it's DNA and you're just pushing it out, copies of proteins out of ribosomes. And it's like, you're just printing copies of your philosophy, really. So, we're not going to, we're not going to project our philosophy on anybody right now. And I don't want you to attach any meaning to the word philosophy, but I want to make sure you understand and own the fact that you have a philosophy. Some of you might be like sort of checking out right now. Don't do that. Don't make that mistake, right? You have a philosophy, right? So your philosophy might be different than mine, might be different than Dr. Pete's. Like, we all have a philosophy. Now, we can say chiropractic philosophy, and there's some assumptions it made, but there's a whole continuum there as well, right? So this is a time for introspection. It's a time for you to recognize that not only is my philosophy the floor that I stand on, right? It's the granite that I stand on. It's my why. It's my reason to exist, my reason to be as a business. Not only is it the floor you stand on, but it's also going to be your ceiling. Okay, so each one of these capacity blocks, think of it as a container, and that container has a limitation to it, right? So where are you right now in your philosophy? Where are you right now in your why? Where are you right now in your heart? This is a time for examination. And hopefully through this conversation and through some introspection, it'll be an opportunity if you do a gut check to be able to stop and be able to say, yeah, really, what's out there on the outskirts of my philosophy? Like, what's on the perimeter? and let's push back some fences here, right? So let's challenge us, be like, what do I believe? And why do I believe it? And how is that actually manifesting in my practice? Dr. Pete, each and every one of these is a capacity block. And if you addressed even one of them and pushed the fence back, increased the volume of your container, so to speak, your practice is going to grow, right? Because the natural state of a principled chiropractic practice is growth, right? And if you're not just freely growing, it just simply means that there's some level of interference to the natural expression of growth of your practice, right? The natural state of a principled chiropractic practice is growth.
Yes.
And if you're not growing just freely and readily, you didn't hear me say easily, you're just not growing readily, then that just simply means that there's something that's interfering with the expression of growth of your practice, the natural state of that business. Now, we all know that interference is only caused by two things, toxicity or deficiency or both. Now, just press pause for a second and let's grasp and twist this concept, because we're all confident telling patients that the natural expression of a human being is to express health. And if you're not expressing health or experiencing health, in other words, you're sick, or you're having a condition or a crisis, what have you, it just simply means that there's something that's interfering with the expression of health in your body. So let's identify where is the interference. And we know the interference always comes down to one of two things or both, which is toxicity or deficiency or both. You know, we look across the landscape of their life, we identify where those things are, and we reconcile them. Same thing is true of your business. And that's what this exercise is about. This is what these crazy eights are. Let's look for the toxicity. Where's something there that's interfering with the business, that's just innately, naturally toxic to the growth and the expansion of your business? Let's identify those things so we can reconcile them. And let's look for the deficiency. Where is there lack? Where are we missing this, right? Where's something missing that we need to reconcile as well? Where's the missing nutrient, so to speak, the deficiency that's creating the interference to the natural state of growth of my business?
Okay, let's take a quick break and talk about Chiro Matchmakers.
Chiro Matchmakers will help you find the right person for the job. If you're looking to hire the ideal chiropractic assistant, Chiro Matchmakers will help you find the specific person missing from your team so that you can get back to using your talents to serve more people. Or if you're looking to hire the ideal associate doctor, CMM can help. Chiro Matchmakers helps chiropractors like you find the ideal associate doctor to unlock your practice potential and get you the freedom that you desire. To learn more, go to chiromatchmakers.com.
It's conversion, retention. Day 1, 2, 3, that's conversion. Day 3, 4, and beyond, that's retention. Retention begins at conversion.
Coming to these seminars is literally changing the way that I practice.
I mean, the coaches are absolutely incredible. The information that we've learned, we just resonate with so much.
Things are just clicking and we're able to do more and serve more patients, and it just keeps getting better and better.
Retention is based on goals. You're going to be their Sherpa. You're going to be their doctor. Real doctors help people achieve their goals. Say hell yeah.
I think it's very important for the doctors to bring their entire team. They push you, and that's why I choose to invest to bring my team to the immersions, because it stretches you beyond where you are in practice. Everyone beats the same drum coming away from the immersions.
It's like going to the top of the mountain. Once you've been there, you have a whole different perspective.
I feel like I'm leaving here with a set of tools and a process to how to get from point A to point Z.
Energy is everything, and you go back to our lives on Monday morning with a clearer vision and a clearer purpose about exactly where we're going. Who's with me, guys?
I've grown so much just every immersion I've gone to. It is making me feel more calm and more at ease and more confident in what I'm doing every day.
And now let's jump right back into our conversation. So I love the story of That's Something. I love the green books, Dr. Stephen. I know you know this, and I know you do too. And you know, one of the lines in that story, he says, this was my dream. I dreamed that I awoke. And he said, that is the most wonderful part of the dream. For in my dream, I'd realized that I'd been asleep. And I'll tell you, if anything right now is happening with all this stuff that's crazy going on in the world, is I do feel like some people are actually awakening. Like sometimes we realize, like, I've been asleep at the wheel. I've been driving my practice on autopilot. I've just been doing this, going through the motions. And I realize now, oh, I've been driving asleep. Now I'm not, this is me. Like I'm talking about myself. Okay. So I'm not talking about you. Like we can go just get so into the routine and rhythm and just go through our life and just get into the practice. Well, I have a chiropractor and I have a practice, and we just get so just we can get asleep in it, and we can forget and we can lose sight. And so even Dr. Stephen, you said this, there's two types of practices that, you know, we see they exist right now. Those that educated their patients, those that wish they had. That kind of a moment. That's an awakening statement. That's like, oh man, I realize that I have or have not been doing that. Or I realize to the level with which I've awakened the people, I've poured into the people, I've transferred this thing, that thing. What is that thing? It's that something. Well, you just said it's the philosophy. When you say that the people that are educated, the people that are not, that's the difference. Guess what that is? That's this right here. It's the philosophy. Yes, it's the science. Yes, it's the art, but no, it's the philosophy, right? And what is that philosophy? You know, what is that thing, that's something that's awakened in you? Like, so if we think about what's been going on in our world over the last 18 months or whatever it is, this crazy phenomena that's happening, it's a great divide, right? GBJ, another great book, The Great Divide between what is your belief? Like, what is your philosophy? What is it that drives you? This is, in this season, hopefully you have experienced an awakening of that thing that's deep inside of you, and why I became a chiropractor in the first place, why I do what I do. If anything, I have become even more convinced, more empowered, more determined because of what's happened in the last year and a half. I'm not saying I know exactly what to do every day, and I'm not saying I have it figured out. I'm just saying I have been reminded repeatedly every time I try to go somewhere. I'm faced with the reality of a completely different philosophy for how health manifests, where and health comes from, and how I would approach life through the filter and lens of my philosophy on health. We have had that. Like, we have all front and center had a moment to awake. So like BJ said, he said, I dreamed that I awoke, and that was the most wonderful part, because I'd realized that I'd been asleep. So my question for you, have you been asleep? Have you recognized that there were times when you were asleep in this past year and a half? I know that there are parts of me that realize, hey, you were sleeping on this. You got caught up on your heels. You were back on your heels. You weren't ready for this. Were you ready for this? And philosophy is, if it's not you, you're going to be exposed really quickly by your team. And as a CEO, one of the things we say, one of your objectives is to cast vision. It's to cast vision. One of those parts of the casting vision is the philosophy. I don't expect somebody that I hire in to come in as a front desk check-in CA who's got all the the talent, the skills, all the gifting to do that job really well. I don't necessarily expect them to have the chiropractic philosophy. That's my responsibility. So as the CEO, it is actually your responsibility, not even your COO if you have that set up. It is your role as a CEO, in my opinion, to bring the philosophy and keep the philosophy of what we're doing, why we do what we do, at the front of every team meeting, at the front of every team training, at the front of every quarterly board meeting, at the front of everything that you do. The philosophy is why you do what you do should be in the forefront. And this comes under your watch.
So as we look around our practices, our businesses, our lives, just look around your practice. And when you recognize that, let's just call it like it is. A tree is known by its fruit. So as you look around, you just have to recognize that if your philosophy is the DNA of your business and you're producing whatever you're producing, it's like your huddle is a manifestation of your philosophy. Your team meeting is, your workshop is, your table talk is, your office policies are, your recommendations for care are. It's just simply an expression. It's like printing proteins, right? Ribosomes are spitting out copies of this philosophy, and it manifests in different ways. But just recognize that is what it is. And if it's not actually a true representation of your philosophy, that's a contradiction. And you've got to be able to sniff that out as a leader. You've got to recognize that contradiction leads to destruction, right? And the degree of the destruction is relative to the degree of contradiction. My friend Patrick Tintempos says that famously all the time, right? So Ayn Rand. So, when you're looking around your practice right now, you have to be looking at it, be able to say, is this physical plant the expression of my philosophy? Are my recommendations for care the expression of my philosophy? Are my payment plans, my office policies, my processes, my procedures, everything that we do here, is it an accurate representation and expression of my philosophy, right? So if it's not, guess what? We're dealing with toxicity or deficiency or both, okay? And that creates this interference to the natural state of your business, which is to grow. The natural state, like a plant with soil and sunlight and oxygen, push that plant into the sun, watch what happens. Its natural state is to grow, and it'll grow to the degree that the container that is sitting in will allow it to. Let's smash that thing, right? Let's put your practice, let's put your business in the appropriate size container, because now more than ever, your community, the world, needs you to spread your roots and grow. We need to address that. We need to reach new soil. We need to be in the sunshine, and we need to be reaching new parts and corners of our community, right? So this is where it's going to start, because out of all these 8, I think this is the most powerful one, because you can never outwork a philosophical deficiency. You're never going to be able to outmarket it. You're never going to be able to out hustle it. Okay. So at the end of the day, it's just not sustainable, right? So figure out exactly what is your why, right? What is your purpose? And just recognize that we're pushed by our purpose and we're pulled by our vision. So what's behind you pushing you? And frankly, Doc, right now, I mean, we all have a bit of fatigue after this last year and a half, because it's been a battle, hasn't it? We want you to know we're coming alongside you right now. And we hope that you find this to be encouraging and empowering, okay? Because there's a big turbo booster behind you, pushing you, called your purpose. It's time to revisit it. It's time to dig your feet in and recognize the granite that you stand on, the why that gets you out of bed every day. And it's the reason that you started your practice in the first place. Dare I say, it's the reason you became a chiropractor in the first place. Get back in touch with that. I mean, make that part of your daily consciousness, that you understand, where do I stand? What is my belief system? What is this all based on? And be pushed by your purpose.
So I want to just get really practical just for a minute before we wrap here, Dr. Stephen. I feel like this is helpful. Number one is I want to show you this, because I know we got YouTube, so I want you to see this. Okay. So this sits on my desk. This sits in you talked about very practically. I want to just get very practical here for some of you, because I've been sharing this with some docs, and I think it's super helpful. Number one is if you want to get your philosophy right, if you want to reignite your philosophy, then you need to be putting your mind into philosophy, meaning what is the philosophy that we hold to be true as a chiropractor? So for me, I have two things that I put my mind into every single day that gets my heart right. Number one is I get my mind, I put my mind in the Bible. I read the Bible. I read the word. It's part of how because that's part of my philosophy. Like Dr. Stephen, we're not here to tell somebody what to do like for your philosophy, but I'm telling you how I do my philosophy. Okay. So I have my every day, it's part of me getting my mind, my heart right. Right. Because I got to make sure, because I have to calibrate my heart as a leader to know that every day when I show up, I'm not coming in, dragging in, I'm not dragging baggage. I'm cleaned out, ready to rock and roll, recalibrated. Everything is tuned. Like you said, you tune and you're ready to go for today. So it's a daily discipline. And the other is the green books. I've always been, they've always been really powerful for me just to read. They stimulate my mind, and some of them are harder to read than others. And there's different things that make sense. But those are two things that very practically that I know that I do that really help me get my philosophy, because those are actually my heart right there. That's the heart behind the why I do what I do and why I'm showing up today. Why did I start this in the first place? Why am I putting my feet on the ground? Why am I doing this? Why am I going out of my way to go do this thing, whatever that thing might be, right? Why am I going to go to do this team meeting? Why are we training? Why are we, you fill in the blank. I have to start every day to make sure I know my why. Like, what is my why behind what I do? And so that's very practically number one. Number two is actually surrounding yourself with people who share the philosophy that you have. It's really important to put yourself in an environment where that's the case. So if you're a practitioner and you're in practice and you're solo and you're alone in your community and you feel isolated, I will encourage you to plug into a group and get surrounded by people and start spending more time with people who share your philosophy. I think most of us get this and we know this, but have you been doing it? Knowing isn't doing. Doing is doing. Are you inserting yourself into environments philosophically where you are, number one, being supported, but also even challenged and elevated? Are you philosophically surrounded by people who share the things that you share as far as your beliefs regarding, let's say, health, regarding life? It's really important to do that. And it's not enough, I think, just to know somebody. It's really important to do life with people. Dr. Stephen, I know that's something you value tremendously. So these are just some very tactical, practical things that, you have to keep yourself in check. I'll give you an example. So one of the things I would do oftentimes in my group report of findings, my doctor's report, is I would actually write down the name of some of my mentors, and I would reserve a seat for them in the room. And so we had a group report. And so, we fit 10, 15 people, 20 people. Well, I'd say, keep this seat empty intentionally, like set an extra seat. And I'd put a name of my mentor. And I envisioned, even though the seat was maybe empty and the room was full of other people, I was speaking and they were there with their notepad, just exactly. Like, is Pete showing up? Is he telling them the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Is he giving them the goods? Is he laying it down? Has he held it back, or is he giving it to him the way that he's supposed to give it to him? Like, I needed to hold myself accountable.
Yep.
And so what are the things that you do, like, in your life to hold yourself accountable philosophically? Because it's so easy to veer to the left and right and just, if I just cut the corner here, cut the corner. No, like, we have to at some point hold the line. What is that line for you, Dr. Stevens? So these are just a couple of things that, for me, philosophically, are just so important to holding that and being successful in it.
I love that, man. I was in that room with you as you were describing that. I love the visual. So let's continue. Let's make it real. If we want you to take action, we're going to give you action steps to take. All right. So some of you are sitting there and being like, okay, I get it. I see it. I need to work on my philosophy. Awesome. How do I do that? So very practically, look around your practice. Let's just focus on your practice and your business right now. Try to identify what is my philosophy? What is my stance? What's my philosophical stance? Like sit there and stew on that, like journal on it, draw a picture, an infographic, lean in, like just try to get your, so like, okay, so I know where I stand here, right? And then ask yourself, all right, so Am I behaving in alignment with that, right? So would people know that without me saying it by observing, looking around and watching how the business runs, how the practice runs, right? So, and look for those deficiencies, right? Like maybe there's obvious deficiencies. You're like, I know what my philosophy is, but man, that's missing from the conversations that are happening at the front desk. In fact, those are missing from the conversations I'm having with my team. So how could they be having those conversations at the front desk if I'm not having those? Maybe there's a deficiency there. Maybe it's the conversations with the education or lack of education that's happening tableside. Maybe that's where it's manifesting. It's like, man, there's a deficiency there. I need to take my game up. Or, maybe there's a missing workshop. Man, we used to do an awesome wellness workshop every single week. Man, fire and brimstone. I'd bring my philosophy, not the philosophy, my philosophy to that practice, right? And man, that worked so well. So we stopped doing it, right? So you got to ask yourself, like, where is the deficiency, right? So maybe it's your training process or your meeting rhythms, or whatever it is, doc, it's showing up. Maybe it's a deficiency, or maybe there's a toxicity, right? Maybe there's something going on in that practice that doesn't belong. That's something that is the contradiction that's creating that interference. You know what it is right now as I say it, right? Is there something that you're doing or you're saying or tolerating that's creating interference to what your practice wants to do, which is get back to doing what it does best. The natural state of a principled chiropractic practice is growth.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Remarkable CEO Podcast. Remember, what the world needs now is chiropractic, and what chiropractic needs now is more successful chiropractors. If you like this podcast, please subscribe, share with a friend, and leave us a review. And if you'd like to connect with us personally, direct message us on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram. Now go and be remarkable.